Hello and welcome to this mindfulness video on behalf of the Stuart Low Trust. My name is Katie. Thank you for joining me today. So just a very brief recap on what mindfulness is. It still means being in the present moment without judgment. Or to put it another way, coming to your senses. So waking up to the present moment, or as Jon Kabat-Zinn would call it, falling awake to the present moment. And literally coming to your senses. So coming to your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, your sense of taste, touch and smell. And our senses naturally bring us back to the present moment because we can't smell yesterday or see tomorrow. So they're very useful kind of tools in helping us to be mindful. So today we are talking about coming to our senses, and also just exploring different ways that we can bring mindfulness into our everyday lives. So kind of getting away from that idea that in order to practice meditation and mindfulness we need to be going on retreats or sitting at the top of a mountain or having perfect conditions, because mindfulness is something that we can actually bring into our everyday lives. We can bring those attitudes and skills of mindfulness into pretty much everything we're doing. The way that I tend to kind of introduce mindfulness to people is to think back to the last meal that you ate, and think about what you were doing at the same time as you were eating. So most people maybe were watching TV or having a conversation with someone, reading the paper or listening to the radio, listening to music. Or if they weren't doing something practical at the same time, they might have been thinking about something else. So our mind tends to wander about, going over a conversation that we've had during the day, or something, and a conversation that might happen tomorrow, or just kind of planning. And that's kind of natural for a human being to do that, but it's a shame because then we actually miss out on the opportunity that we have to taste the food and to really enjoy it, and for it to really nourish us in that moment. I'm actually going to read out a little bit from a handout that I wrote about coming to our senses. When we begin to practice awareness of the present moment via our senses, we begin to reconnect to our bodies and the world around us, and to experience our lives more fully. We begin to learn to sit with pain, pleasure, and any sensation without pushing them away or clinging, instead allowing ourselves to really experience what we are feeling. By practicing coming back to our senses in this way, we naturally arrive in the present moment where we are truly alive. So that's kind of what I mean when I talk about coming to our senses. And I wanted to talk a bit about mindfulness. So when we practice mindfulness in a lot of these videos, we're doing a kind of formal practice. So we will focus on our breathing or our body, like a body scan, and we'll do it kind of sitting or lying with our eyes closed. But today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the informal practices that we can do, just some ideas about how you might practice mindfulness in your everyday life. So walking is quite a good one. So if you've watched any of the mindfulness in nature videos that I've done for the Stuart Low Trust, I talk in some of those about how powerful and healing it can be to be, outside in nature. And if you combine the benefits of mindfulness, being in nature, and walking, that's kind of like a triple whammy, because all of those things are very good for us, very nourishing, very healing. Obviously, it's not easy for everyone to walk, but if you can walk, then it can be something that we can bring our awareness to. So we bring our awareness to the physical act of walking, the feeling of our shoes, our feet on the ground, again, just any senses of what we can hear around us, and the little things that we can see, kind of stopping to smell the roses if you like, and just see what happens and be curious about what happens. Eating is quite a good one, going back to eating, because it involves pretty much all of our senses. So before we eat, we can notice the colours and the textures of the food. We can look at the food, and we can smell it, and we can obviously feel the food in our hand if it's that sort of food, and also in our mouths where we can taste it. And you can also hear your food sometimes. If you're eating a big plate of pasta, it does tend to make some noise, but you don't always notice those things. And also bringing your awareness to eating, we tend to kind of slow down when we're mindful of what we're doing. That can improve our digestion, and it also tends to really improve our enjoyment of those things, and really enhances our experience. So one of the classic mindful exercises is actually eating a raisin mindfully. And please feel free to have a go at this. So you're basically just slowing down, noticing the way it looks. You can hold it up to your ear if you want to see how it sounds, and just really taking your time to eat it very, very slowly. And I've done this in the past in workshops, and people have said, wow, that's the most delicious raisin I've ever had, because we are really bringing ourselves to that moment, our whole awareness to it. It can really be a lot more intense, a lot more vivid. And anything like showering or cleaning our teeth, those involve kind of a lot of senses as well. Washing our hands, we're doing that a lot, during a pandemic at the moment. And all of these things, just using our senses to bring us back to the present moment. Also, doing things that we might normally do, we might not take much notice of them. Even things like listening to music. So we might listen to music, our favourite music that we're very familiar with, but there might be certain things that we've never noticed. So if you go back and listen to one of your favourite songs, maybe listen to something that you wouldn't normally focus on, like the drums or the bass or whatever it is, piano. See if you can listen to it with kind of a beginner's mind, fresh ears, as if you'd never heard this song before, and see what happens, because it can be quite an interesting experience. So today we're actually going to try something different, and I'm going to do a little meditation on washing up. And obviously it could be tricky for you to do it at the same time, but I'm hoping that it will inspire you to have a go at it yourself. And next time you're washing the dishes, to do it mindfully and see if that changes your experience. Just be open and curious to what happens. So I've got a little Thich Nhat Hanh quote about washing the dishes and mindfulness. If while washing the dishes we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we are not washing the dishes to wash the dishes. What's more, we are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. In fact, we are completely incapable of realising the miracle of life while standing at the sink. If we can't wash the dishes, the chances are we won't be able to drink our tea either. So he's talking about how we tend to kind of project onto the next thing, especially when it's something like that we would regard as a chore, like doing the dishes. We kind of want to get it out of the way to get something a bit more interesting, a bit more fun. But whereas if we actually really engage with the present moment, really we are fully present, truly alive in that moment, it can really shift into something a bit more enjoyable. And it's kind of like seeing those everyday tasks as an opportunity to be mindful and to enrich our present experience. So I hope you enjoy washing up with me, and I'll be back after the meditation. See you soon. So welcome to this slightly different mindfulness practice where we will be washing some dishes and just washing the dishes. So I'm going to start by just bringing my awareness to my posture, my feet on the ground, and my hands on the sink. Making sure my mind is where my body is in this moment. Before I start, just taking a moment to appreciate having clean running water. And knowing that not everyone is as fortunate as me. Something like 1 in 3 people worldwide don't have access to clean running water. So just taking a moment to appreciate that before I turn on the tap. Just listening to the sound of the water. Feeling the warmth of the water. Sponge. Texture of the sponge. The temperature of the sponge. I'm going to take a moment just to smell the washing up liquid. And noticing how it smells stronger the more I pay attention to it. The sight of the bubbles, the foam on the sponge, the sound, the foam. And using all of my senses to bring me back to the present moment. Just feeling this bowl, the weight of it. The reflections of the light. Patterns and the colours. The sound of the sponge. Watching the bubbles disappear. Feeling the water. The sound of the china. Taking a spoon. Again, looking at the reflections. Seeing how absorbed you can be in the different colours, textures, And just bringing my mind back when it wanders. Noticing when our mind is trying to jump to the next thing, to the cup of tea waiting for us. Bringing our full attention back to what is in our hand in this moment. Coming to our senses. Noticing those sounds. Noticing any judgments that we might make. This is pleasant, this is unpleasant. I like this, I don't like this. This is boring. This is fun. Taking a fork and actually noticing the weight of it in your hand again. Feeling of the bubbles as you wash it. The sounds. Sound of the water. Sound of the cutlery. Washing my favourite mug. It's my judgment. Sound. Sponge again. See if you can see rainbows in the bubbles. And you can smell the washing up liquid again, anytime. And notice your reactions at any time. Rinsing the sponge. Feeling the way the temperature of the sponge changes when I run warm water through it. And just taking a moment to focus on my feet, on the floor again, my hands at the sink. And this moment. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that meditation at my sink with me. And just to finish this video and this series of videos that I've made for the Stuart Low Trust, I just wanted to kind of share some reflections that I had with you about mindfulness and the way it's taught and the way it's kind of practiced. So mindfulness is very trendy, and it's talked about a lot and taught a lot, and which is all fantastic. But I realized recently that some of the way that mindfulness is taught these days is actually, it kind of assumes that we're all leading terribly busy lives and very stressful kind of lives where we don't have time to stop and think, and you know, doing things like informal practice that we've been talking about today is quite a good way. If you do have an incredibly busy life, you have you work long hours, you have a family to look after, all those things, then it can be very helpful. But I'm not a fan of assuming that everyone's life is like that, because I know it's not. My life in the past has been through illness very different to that, and I know what it's like when the days kind of merge into one another, and you don't have that structure, you don't have that busyness when it feels like the rest of the world are busy. So it's kind of, mindfulness can still help us a lot, actually, and that it was definitely part of my recovery, was mindfulness and learning to kind of heal myself. And mindfulness can really help us when our lives aren't busy, by kind of shining a gentle light on what is helpful to us, what is keeping us stuck maybe, and when we can't see a way forward, it can really give us that kind of gentle space to reflect on what might be getting in our way, and kind of give us a little bit of clarity to maybe move forwards or change things, albeit slowly and step by step. If you start moment by moment, then the journey doesn't seem so daunting. So I just wanted to say that. And I just wanted to end and talk about my experience of making these videos, because this has been quite a steep learning curve for me. I'm really not used to making videos. Hopefully you can't tell that, but I'm used to doing workshops that are very, very interactive rather than kind of talking at people. I much prefer to get a discussion going, and that is normally the way I teach. So to talk into a camera is quite alien to me, or it has been. So in using mindfulness has really helped me to be aware of all those things that may have been getting in my way, the ideas that I had about, I can't do this, and so I wanted to share that. But it's been really good fun. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope that you have got something out of these videos, and I'd love to hear what you think. If you want to leave a comment on the videos, I'd love to hear that. So yeah, I'd like to just finish on a few quotes, because I love my quotes. So this is an Alan Watts quote, and he said, "The art of living is neither careless drifting on the one hand, nor fearful clinging on the other. It consists in being sensitive to each moment, in regarding it as utterly new and unique, in having the mind open and wholly receptive." And it sounds so simple, but it's not always easy, and that's why mindfulness is always a work in progress. And he also said there is nothing to try to do, for whatever comes up in this moment is accepted, including not accepting. And yes, so I think that'll do for today. That's all my quotes and my reflections. Thank you once again for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to. Please check out the Stuart Low Trust website, slt.org.uk, and I really hope to see you in person at some point soon. In the meantime, please look after yourselves. Stay safe and well. Thank you.